Coming up on today's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, will he play or will he not play on Sunday versus the Vikings? Talking about Maxx Crosby. That plus a whole lot more comes up on Friday's edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast, December 8th, 2023.
Just win. Just win. Just win. Just win.
The autumn wind is a raider, pillaging just for fun. He'll knock you round and upside down and laugh when he's conquered and won. And won. And won. And won. And won.
And welcome in, Raider Nation, to another edition of the Locked On Raiders podcast. Thank you so much for making the show your first listen of the day. Make sure you subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you get your podcast to get the latest edition of the show as soon as it becomes available. Of course, as always, if you're checking us out on YouTube, thank you. We appreciate you. Made the show grow in a major way. Over 10,000 subscriptions already. We definitely appreciate that. So thank you, Raider Nation, for the support. Also, shout out to my man Ari. Does a great job each and every day making sure we're on YouTube. We're looking good, sounding good. Takes a lot of pride in his work, and I definitely appreciate that. He's on Twitter at Ari Produces. You can hit me up as well at your boy Q254. And we got the Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line at 707-654-4693. Your calls and texts will come up in segment number 3. A lot of feedback to get to. We didn't get any on Thursday. We had the crossover edition with Luke Braun, host of Locked On Vikings. Hopefully you enjoyed that. But we'll get back to calls and texts and get as much in as possible coming up in segment number 3. Segment number 2, want to give you the keys to victory. I do that for the final show, always before a game, whether that's a Monday show, maybe a Thursday show or a Wednesday show going into Thursday, maybe a Thursday show, whatever the case may be. Always want to give you the keys to victory. So we'll do that in segment number 2. Plus, since the Raiders are coming off the bye, what does it look like? How does it look a little bit different? What did they learn? What did the coaches, what were they able to go back and look at the film and see, okay, this worked, this didn't work, let's do more of this and less of that, right? So how is it going to look? We'll talk about all that coming up in segment number 2. Here's segment number 1. I'd like to hit you with the news and notes of the day, and we'll do that after I tell you about the title sponsor, which is DoorDash. And anytime that you get in a pinch like I did Thursday, I had to go over to T-Mobile Arena for the in-season tournament, do a little radio hit for ESPN. That was awesome. Of course, I had my radio show that night as well, game night. I do it every single Monday through Friday. It was a little bit later, though, because of the in-season tournament, so I didn't get an opportunity to eat. So the wife decided she was going to DoorDash some Grimaldi's for me, which is awesome. So all you can do is download the DoorDash app, make sure that you have it on your phone, and make sure you use it early and often, and make sure you use the promo code LOCKED23 when you place your order, and make sure you keep on listening to this episode so you can hear more from our friends at DoorDash. We'll do that in just a little bit, but let's go ahead and jump into the news and notes, and let's start off with the injury report. And off top, got to talk about Maxx Crosby. He's the guy everyone wants to know about. Is he or is he not going to play on Sunday? And I'll tell you right now, Raider Nation, I would not be shocked to not see him play on Sunday. We know he's dealing with that knee injury. We found out during the bye week how severe that knee injury really was. He still went out there and played week 12 versus the Kansas City Chiefs because, well, it was the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, and he really wanted to be out there. He did everything in his power to get out there, and he did, and collected a sack. So I got to give him a lot of credit for that. But at this point, in this stage of the game, I'm not too sure if the Raiders are going to allow him to keep on doing that. I know he wants to be out there. I know he wants to go get that Defensive Player of the Year award. I know that that's one of his goals that he has, and that's awesome. But the Raiders as a team, as a franchise, as an organization also have to say that, hey, you're the face of our franchise. We can't allow you to hurt yourself and damage yourself maybe a lot further because you want to go out there and chase an award and try to obviously help the team win as well. So on Wednesday and Thursday, Maxx Crosby did not participate in practice. We'll get another injury report later on today. Wouldn't be surprised to see he did not participate, and honestly wouldn't be surprised to see him listed as doubtful as he was week 12. Now, he still went out there and played, and that's the first time anyone this whole year who was listed as doubtful played, but Maxx Crosby is a different dude. So we'll see what happens, but I would not be shocked at all if the Raiders decided to hold him out and maybe even hold him out a couple games, if not longer than that, as the Raiders have 5 games guaranteed left. Also, guys that did not participate, Colton Miller dealing with a shoulder injury, Daniel Carlson dealing with the illness, and John Jenkins just got some veterans rest, so that's not bad. Brandon Faison, who they just designated to return from IR, the 21-day window's opening up, he's limited. Also, linebacker Kanai Mayaga dealing with a knee injury, he was limited as well. And Malcolm Kuntz with the ankle injury was limited as well on Thursday. Again, we'll get another injury report later on this afternoon after the Raiders practice, and then 90 minutes before kickoff, we'll find out who's active and who's inactive. On my radio show on Tuesday had Trey Wingo, formerly at ESPN. Now he's part of 33team.com. And we were talking all things just NFL, as I usually do, with a national guest each and every day on my radio show, Unnecessary Roughness, on Raider Nation Radio 920. But at ESPN, he worked with Antonio Pierce. He knows Antonio Pierce really well. So I asked him straight up, like, Trey, what do you know about AP that kind of makes him tick, makes him go, and can give him a better opportunity to earn that full-time head coach position with the Silver and Black? Here's what Trey had to say about Antonio Pierce. Check it out.
Yeah, well, AP brings a smoldering intensity, all right? Like, whether he was playing for the Giants when they won Super Bowl 42 in the upset of the Patriots, or when he was working with me, or when he was working with Herm Edwards on the Arizona State staff. I mean, the guy is passionate about the game. And then, of course, comes the sort of the process of learning how to manage a game. Like, I think the hardest thing for a head coach in the NFL that nobody gets talks about is managing the game. Not calling a game, not coming up with plays for the game, but managing the game. There's a feel for managing the game. When do you want to use your challenges? When do you want to use your timeouts? Why are you using these strategically? And that's something that I think comes along with experience. Like, Jeff Saturday got the Colts coaching job last year, and Jeff's a friend of mine, and I was even surprised that he got the job just because of the lack of experience. And I think Jeff eventually could be a really good coach in the NFL, but there were some games where it felt like, not having been on the sidelines for a million games and understanding situations, it can get away from you pretty quickly if you're not used to that. Like, Mike Martz was one of the greatest play callers and play designers of all time when he was offensive coordinator for the Rams. And then when he became the head coach, game managing became more important than game calling or game playing. And that was a difficult transition for Mike. He would challenge things that made no sense. He would use his timeouts sort of willy-nilly. Those are the things, the little things that usually become the biggest things that someone like Antonio is going to have to get to on a learning curve real quick. Because the passion for the game, the connection with the players, all of that is there. It's understanding the situational movement in the game that I think is the most important thing for him.
So I thought that was some really good stuff. I like how he broke into a story about Mike Martz, and we know what kind of head coach he was, and we know what kind of offensive coordinator, a guy that is very good with the X's and O's, and that's something that Antonio Pierce doesn't have to be, as an X and O's guy, but he does have to do and learn those in-game decisions. That's something that I've talked about before here on the podcast, and really I think that that's the most important part of the job. If he can show over the next 5 weeks that those in-game decisions are getting better, I think he has a real shot at earning that job and being the Raiders' full-time head coach, not an interim, but just earning that job. And I think it would be awesome. I really do. He's a young dude, get his first opportunity with the Silver and Black as a head coach. And, he could be that guy for many years and have that energy and be that guy that players want to play for. And I think that would mean a lot, man. So I'm really leaning into the Antonio Pierce, his camp to try to see if he's going to end up getting that job, and really kind of hope that he can. But again, win the challenge, when not to. Go for it on fourth down, when not to go for it on fourth down. Clock management, timeout usage, right? And when to send the field goal unit in and when not to. I mean, those are some things, all those in-game decisions that Antonio Pierce is going to have to really get better at doing. And again, it's like what Trey Wingo said, it comes with reps. You just need reps. So I thought that was some really good stuff. I definitely wanted to bring that to the podcast here on the Locked On Raiders podcast on this Friday. Finally, here in segment number 1, we'll be talking with interim head coach Antonio Pierce around 10:45 this morning at the Intermountain Health Care Performance Center. Also, practice will be open to the media from 12:05 to 12:15. I'll probably leave before then. Just got some stuff to do before I head to go do my radio show at Buffalo Wild Wings. And then 1:30 to 2:05 Pacific time, the locker room will be open. I definitely won't be around for that because my radio show starts at 2 o'clock. So we will be there, and I will be there to talk to Antonio Pierce coming up at 10:45. That's what I got for you for segment number 1 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast, news and notes of the day. Coming up at segment number 2, keys to victory and what I want to see from the Silver and Black coming off their bye week. We'll jump right into that after I tell you about the title sponsor, which is DoorDash. And I told you about DoorDash at the top of the show. The wife likes to use DoorDash to go and get Grimaldi's because that's one of my favorite pizza places here in the Las Vegas area. And that's a good thing about DoorDash is that they find and they use your local spots, the spots that you really love, some of the spots that may not be as well known to people from the outside community, but places that are around near and dear your house that you really do enjoy. they always go and feature that. So I got a lot of good places around my house. Grimaldi's is one of them. Pizza Rock is another one. Smith's grocery store. They go to there. They go to grocery stores as well. But I've got a lot of different places up and down the streets that are near my house. And so DoorDash is something that's very easy to use. Again, the wife does it all the time. I actually got a $75 DoorDash gift card just the other day just to give to the wife. So in case of emergency, break glass, right? In case she wants to order something either for herself or me when I'm running in and out of the house, going to different places, going across town, running back in between radio shows, she could do so. If you haven't got the DoorDash app on your phone yet, download it right now. You'll get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Again, you got to download the app, use the promo code LOCK23, subject to change, terms apply. Again, download the app. You'll get 50% off up to $10 value when you spend $15 or more on your first order. Get all the great local foods that are around you. You're going to help stabilize the community around you. And again, you're going to be able to do it from the comfort of your own home, or maybe you're at the job and you don't want to leave. Either way, you don't want to get out in that traffic. DoorDash will do all the dashing just for you. Again, the promo code is LOCK23. You got to download the DoorDash app. You'll get 50% off of the $10 value on your first order when you download the app. Spend $15 or more. Subject to change. Terms apply. All right, Raider Nation, here we go. Segment number 2 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Want to get into keys to victory. What is it going to take for the Raiders to snap their 2-game losing streak? They lost to Miami and Kansas City back-to-back weeks before they went on their bye. And now week 14, they come up with the Minnesota Vikings as they'll host them at Allegiant Stadium on Sunday. So we'll start out with the offense. I've been talking to a lot of different folks that cover the Minnesota Vikings. Obviously, been paying attention to the Vikings myself as well, seeing what they do really well, seeing what they don't do really well. And there was a time this season when it looked like they were just going to be the worst team. They were going to trade off a bunch of players, and then all of a sudden they were able to find some wins. So the one thing I know is they turn over the ball a lot, and that'll be a factor here in segment number 2. But let's go ahead and start off with the offense for the Silver and Black. They're going to want to get the ball out of Aiden O'Connell's hands quickly, right? Brian Flores is going to bring the blitz from all over, right? That's something that we learned listening to Luke Braun, host of Locked On Vikings on the Crossover Thursday edition. I mean, he's going to bring the heat from everywhere. So this is going to be a big test for Aiden O'Connell. How is he going to, analyze and break down where it's coming from? How does he slide protection? How quickly can he get the ball out of his hands and get it out to his hot route? Maybe get it to the running back out of the backfield. I do think this is a big game for Josh Jacobs. I think he has an opportunity to go over 100 scrimmage yards. I just don't think he's going to have the most yards on the ground. But I do believe it's a game where he can get some passes out of the backfield. The Raiders, for some reason, aren't very good at the screen game. I know it's all a timing thing, and they're just not very good at it, but it might be something that they work on. It might be something that they have to implement a little bit to try to slow down the blitzers of the Minnesota Vikings, because, again, they are going to be blitzing from all over the place, from the secondary, from the linebacking core, deep safeties, whatever the case may be. They're going to be blitzing, trying to confuse Aiden O'Connell and trying to create him to create some kind of turnover, make a mistake. If he makes a mistake, it could be a good situation for the Minnesota Vikings. I was asking Lincoln Kennedy, what do you do when a team blitzes as much as Minnesota does? And he says lots of misdirection. So if you are going to try to run the ball, go with some misdirection, maybe some end arounds, some jet sweeps he had suggested as well. So that's something to pay attention to. But I'm really focusing in on, Aiden O'Connell getting the ball to Josh Jacobs just by throwing the ball to him, little quick outs, out of the backfield. That's something I'm paying attention to. Dial up what Aiden O'Connell does well. That's something that I want to see. Bo Hardegree had all week to look at the film and see what Aiden O'Connell has done really well in his starts. That's some stuff that he needs to continue to do. And again, try to speed up that clock when it comes to Aiden O'Connell. That's the one thing that I think he still does is hold on to the ball a little bit too long. Get Michael Mayer more involved. That's something I'd like to see as well. He could also be a guy that's a hot route, right? He's a guy that can, block for a second and then all of a sudden sneak out and catch a pass. And the one thing about Michael Mayer that I really like, he's always falling forward. Whenever he catches the ball, you always see him pick up an extra 2 or 3 yards. He never goes down like on first contact. He's one of those dudes that is really tough to get down. I can really appreciate it. I compare him a lot to Zeke Elliott when he first came into the league. When he would run the ball, you'd always see him running and falling forward. It always seemed like he picked up an extra 2 yards, extra 3 yards, whatever the case may be. That's how Michael Mayer, that's what I see when I see him play. He catches the ball, he'll run backwards, he'll run sideways, he'll try to jump over a guy. I mean, he's always doing a little bit extra to pick up a couple yards, and I could appreciate that. So offensively, you got to get the ball out of Aiden's hands quickly. You got to implement the screen game, throwing the ball to Josh Jacobs. I think one of the goals is 100 yards scrimmage yards that he needs to get. Maybe he'll catch his first touchdown in his career, catching his first touchdown in his career. Use some misdirection like Lincoln Kennedy suggested, and then dial up what Aiden O'Connell does really well. Get Michael Mayer involved also into the offense. Seems like he has an opportunity really the final 5 games to kind of really show what he can be and showcase his skill set and why the Raiders drafted him when they did. Defensively, you got to. I'm challenging the secondary. I want to see what the secondary is going to do. They have Justin Jefferson coming back from Minnesota. They have T.J. Hockenson at the tight end position. They have rookie Jordan Addison. He's a really good rookie as well. So they've got dudes that can get after it. So there's no Marcus Peters. He's no longer with the team. You know Nate Hobbs is going to have an assignment. Is it going to be T.J.? Is it going to be Justin Jefferson? Amik Robertson? You know, what's his role going to be? There's a lot of questions with who's going to step up. Jack Jones, guy that the Raiders picked up off of waivers from the Patriots. What does his role look like? I asked Antonio Pierce about it the other day, and he said he's got an opportunity to prove and show that he belongs. So he's going to be out there just like he was out there a lot when Marcus Peters got benched. So those are the guys I'm really looking at in the secondary. Maybe Tyler Hall as well, step up. Maybe Nate Hobbs goes on the outside and Tyler Hall can slide into the slot and try to cover T.J. Hockenson. I know Marcus Epps tried to do his best with Travis Kelce in Week 12. That didn't work out very well because, well, the Raiders always struggle to slow down Travis Kelce. So they were going to have different options, but I really want to challenge the secondary to try to slow down the weapons of the Minnesota Vikings. Josh Jacobs has never been throwing passes to Justin Jefferson in the game, so that's going to be interesting as Jefferson's making his return to the lineup after being out with a hamstring, so we'll see what that looks like. But Dobbs is another key to this game for the Raiders. Got to get pressure on Dobbs, got to help him create make mistakes. Just like the Vikings are going to try to force Aiden O'Connell to make a mistake, the Raiders have to force Dobbs to make a couple mistakes. He turns the ball over quite a bit. He's fumbled the ball a lot. He hasn't lost all his fumbles, but he has fumbled the ball quite a bit, like 14 times. He's thrown a bunch of interceptions. He will make a mistake. You just got to force him. So if it's Maxx Crosby out there, great. If it's not, well, someone else is going to have to step up and create a little bit of havoc and help the Raiders come up with some takeaways and get the ball back to the offense. The offense, the best way for them to cook is have a short field. So Dobbs will make the mistake. You got to go out there and force it. And when he gives you the opportunity to take advantage of it, the Raiders have to take advantage of it, force him to turn the ball over, especially early in the game. Here's a nice little nugget, and Luke Braun mentioned this on the crossover edition. The Vikings have done that a handful of times this season where the first possession or even the first play, they've turned the ball over. If the Raiders could get that early pressure and cause them to have an early turnover and get that takeaway early, they may be able to get up on the Vikings a couple touchdowns. And they're going to fight, they're going to claw, they're going to scratch trying to get their way back into the game. But if the Raiders can get on top of them early by, a couple scores, that might be a really good day for the Silver and Black. Now, I know that didn't work for the Kansas City Chiefs, but I don't look at the Kansas City Chiefs and the Minnesota Vikings as being, cut from the same cloth. I just don't. So defensively, that's what the Raiders need to do. Special teams-wise, Daniel Carlson, A.J. Cole, keep doing what you do, right? I don't really have to go into big detail, but Antonio Pierce has challenged the return game. He's challenged DeAndre Carter to be special, right? Pop one. Set the offense up in good field possession. I'm not saying you got to take one to the house, but he has said the return game's got to be better. He's expecting more from it, so there's not a lot of opportunities on the kick return to have big returns, but on the punt return, there is opportunities here and there. So if the Raiders can get off the field, force a punt, look for DeAndre Carter to make a play or two. Right? I mean, he's got to pop one. That's the best way to phrase it. Pop one, set them up for a good field position as far as I'm concerned. And then overall, coaching. Show what they learned in the bye week. How does Antonio Pierce, Bo Hardegree, how do they come back with their coaching decisions, right? What kind of play calling is Bo Hardegree doing? Remember, he's new at this as well as the interim play caller. So what kind of rhythm can he get in, especially early? Can he call the plays that Aiden runs really well? Can he do that? Can he make Aiden O'Connell comfortable in a Brian Flores defense that's going to be blitzing the hell out of him? Can he do that by setting him up with the right plays? Well, that's going to be the challenge. Energy, as far as I'm concerned, will never be a problem as long as AP is the coach, right? But can that energy also be used to maximize the Raiders and their team ability and talents? That's what he's got to be able to do. Yeah, he's going to get those guys fired up. They're going to be ready to go. The effort will always be there. The energy will always be there. Can they translate that and maximize their talents? That's going to be a question. And they continue to grind, find success and consistency, right? When you start to do well, especially early on when they're able to score and have some really nice drives, okay, how did that work? Okay, let's keep doing that. All right, they're going to make adjustments. No problem. You make adjustments as well to keep that offense going, and even defensively, stay consistent. Play at a high level. That's got to be the biggest key is trying to figure out how to be consistent. They haven't done that all year long. They'll play one quarter really well, then they'll take a couple quarters off where they don't play great, especially offensively, and then all of a sudden in the fourth quarter, they'll try to fight and claw back. All of a sudden they'll wake up or something. So how can they be as consistent as possible? It's hard to play a 4-quarter game and be solid all 4 quarters, but they've got to do the best job they can to do that, just that. Try to be as consistent as possible. So those are the overall keys and kind of what I'm looking for from this team as they're coming off the bye week and they're preparing for the Minnesota Vikings Week 14 action at Allegiant Stadium. Coming up in segment number 3, what's on your mind? Your calls and texts, 707-654-4693. Before we get to any of that, though, I do want to tell you about PrizePicks. And you probably say, well, Q, what is PrizePicks? Well, it's daily fantasy made simple. And not only is it daily fantasy, but it is the biggest platform in North America, the easiest and most exciting way to play daily fantasy sports. It's just you against the numbers. You're not going up against players, pros, sharks, none of that. You pick more than or less than 2 to 6 player stat projections and watch the winnings roll in, just like that. So you can do whatever you want. You can pick any player you want. You can go Josh Jacobs. Maybe you think he's going to have a big day catching the ball and get a bunch of scrimmage yards like I talked about in segment number 2. Maybe you think Devontae is going to go off and he's going to have a big day. You can do that. Or they have combo projections now. So maybe you're checking out the in-season tournament. Maybe you're checking out just the NBA and football in general, and you want to pick up a player like a Steph Curry and a Devontae Adams, or a Steph Curry and a Josh Jacobs, or, whatever the case may be. In in-season tournament, they're playing the finals on Saturday. So maybe it's LeBron James having a big monster day and then Devontae having a big monster day on Sunday. Whatever the case is, they have combo projections right now for the NBA and for football. And on top of that, PrizePicks has a reboot policy. What's that? Well, entries stay in play even if one of your players gets injured. So for football and basketball games, if you have a player who exits the game in the first half and doesn't come back in the second, the player's rebooted just like that. PrizePicks is the only daily fantasy sports platform with the injury insurance policy. You want to go play? Good. Do it. Go to prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Use code LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. Again, prizepicks.com/LockedOnNFL. Promo code is LockedOnNFL for a first deposit match up to $100. PrizePicks, daily fantasy sports made easy. Here we go, Raider Nation. Segment number 3 of today's Locked On Raiders podcast. Your calls and texts straight off that Locked On Raider podcast voicemail line, 707-654-4693. Let's start things off with a call from Raider Meatloaf. He's calling to ask about the Raiders, a couple Raiders, then also lets it be known he'll be in attendance Sunday at Allegiant Stadium. Here he is, Raider Meatloaf.
Hey, what's up, Q? It's Raider Meatloaf here. Just with, I feel like you already said, it's like we got to win out to even have a shot. So with that being said, would you think it would be right to go up to Devontae Adams right now and say, hey, do you want to be a Raider? Like through and through, till this draft, blah, blah, blah. Do you want to be here, basically? And if he says yes, then keep him. But if he says no, let's try to trade him and get something for him, going into the draft. Another thing, too, is I want to know your actual thoughts on Aiden O'Connell. Is he that guy? Like you've said, we've heard everybody talk about Aiden O'Connell. He might be a backup. He might be this. He might be that. But could he be that guy in our system? I want to know your opinion on that. And third of all, I'm going to be at the Raider-Charger game. And the first Raider game I ever went to was last year. It was at SoFi, Rams versus Raiders. And we all know how that went. Baker Mayfield flew in and beat the Raiders that game. So if you're going to be at Raider game, let me know. I would love to say what up. All right. Take care.
Thanks so much for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And, yeah, I do think after the season, I think the Raiders sit down with Devontae Adams and just pick his brain, not necessarily say, hey, man, do you want to be here or do you want us to trade you? I think that they just sit him down and have a conversation. I know that he is part of those conversations with ownership, with Mark Davis. I know that he's able to walk into the coach's office, talk to Antonio Pierce. He's able to talk to Champ Kelly. He is part of the decision-making process. And I'm not saying he's making the decisions, but they do hear him out. So I definitely believe at the end of the season, they sit him down and say, hey, man, this is what's going on. How are you feeling about this, that, and the other? And they really do listen to him and respect him. And I think he appreciates that. So I'll tell you, my gut feeling is Devontae Adams doesn't want to go anywhere. But I also would not blame him, and I don't think the Raiders would either if he were to say, hey, I love being here, but I'm getting a little bit older, and I really want an opportunity to win a championship, and I just don't see it here. Can I go play with my buddy Aaron Rodgers in New York, or can I go here, there, and the other? Like, I don't think that the Raiders would be mad at him, and I know I wouldn't be mad at him. I totally would respect that. And if you were to decide, and if that was the case, then yeah, the Raiders trade him and see what they can get as much as possible, and hope that they're able to maximize what they have with their draft picks and get the best players in there available. But again, my gut feeling tells me that when they do sit down with Devontae when the season's over, he's going to reassure him that he wants to be a member of the Raiders. As far as O'Connell goes, I see glimpses of really good quarterback play. I do. I'll sit in the press box, I'll see a pass. I'm like, man, that was a great pass. Or, man, that was a great read. Or, man, what a strong arm. And then I'll see something that looks like, a shortstop trying to throw the ball to first base and it bounces. Right? Just like, inconsistent. He just needs reps. Right? And so he's got at least these 5 games. I think that the Raiders will probably have a good idea who he is, but I threw it out there the other day, and I've talked about it quite a bit on my radio show as well. I wouldn't be shocked, honestly, if the Raiders decided that, you know what, we need to let him have a whole offseason. We need to let him get familiar with whoever's going to be the play caller, whatever the offensive playbook is going to look like. We'll run it back, and we'll try to build up the team around him and see what we got. I wouldn't be shocked by that either. So I think that he's in a pretty decent position, but he's got to go out there and show what he can do. As far as Sunday, yeah, I'll definitely be at the game. I'll be at Allegiant Stadium early, as a matter of fact. I usually get there about 9:30. I got Q's kickoff. It's the pregame show. I lead right into JT the Brick and Eric Allen. So I'll be there on the air from about 10 to 11. I'll run my backpack up to the press box, and then I'll come back down, hang out on Coors Light Landing for a while, probably until, I don't know, probably about 30, 45 minutes before kickoff. So, yeah, come to the Coors Light Landing, man, at Allegiant Stadium right next to the Torch. I'd love to, say what's up, shake your hand, talk a little Raider football with you before the game. So thanks so much for the call. I definitely appreciate you. Up next, I got a text from Big Drew in Houston. What up, Q? Love you and love the show. But I got to let you know, Tuesday's episode sucked. LOL. I don't think anyone wants to hear about Robert Gallery and his days at Iowa. No offense. Anyway, more importantly, should we be concerned about Maxx Crosby and the 2 defensive ends we signed? It's early in the morning, so the first injury report hasn't come out yet, but I'm a little worried. Wish you would have touched on that instead, but I'm sure you will. Anyway, Q, hope you don't think I beat you up too bad. You're still the best Raider pod of all time. That's Big Drew in Houston, and no offense taken, man. I mean, hey, I guess I say it all the time, I'm not for everybody. Every show's not for everybody. I don't know. You say that nobody wants to hear about Robert Gallery in Iowa. I'll tell you this, man. If you make it into the Hall of Fame as anything, that's worth celebrating. And I think that Robert Gallery earned that. That's why I talked to him. That's why I brought it to the show, because I do think it's worth something. I mean, the dude's in the College Football Hall of Fame, and he did something to earn that number 2 overall pick. And no, it didn't work out in the NFL. I get it. So that's why I didn't bring up the Raiders, because there was no reason to bring up the Raiders, because it would have been just it didn't work out here and there. Instead, I wanted to celebrate him. I like celebrating people. I like celebrating accomplishments, and that's a hell of an accomplishment. And last I checked, it was once a Raider, always a Raider. So that's kind of the method to the madness there. So, again, not offended. Don't feel like I'm beat up, but, the show sucked. Sorry. Apologize. But, I enjoy talking to Robert Gallery, so I guess that's one that I'll just take for myself. I enjoy Tuesday's show. But with that being said, Maxx Crosby, should you be concerned about him? I mean, you should be concerned if you really want him to play every single game. I do think there's a chance that he might miss this week. I think there's a chance he might miss a couple weeks. I think that the best thing for him would be to make sure he takes care of that knee and is as safe as possible. It's just that simple, right? I mean, the guy is the face of the franchise. The Raiders need him for the long haul. I know what he wants to do. He wants to go out there and he wants to be the best. And he's so stinking good. And he's so stinking competitive. He doesn't want to miss any time, and I get that. But at some point, he's got to make sure he doesn't set himself up where he damages that knee anymore. That's my biggest concern. So thanks so much for the text, my man. I appreciate you, and I'll try to do better next time, my man. I'll try to do better, even though, well, like I said, not for everybody every day, but it's all good. Up next, got a call from Raider X. He's calling to tell us about 3 things he'd like to see the final 5 games of the season starting this Sunday versus the Minnesota Vikings. Here he is, Raider X.
Hey, Q, this is Raider X. I just wanted to the Raiders getting back on the field Sunday. Just wanted to share a couple thoughts and hopefully get your insight on it. I just want to see a couple things as a Raider. Hopefully they accomplish this second part of the season from their buys after their bye. I know it's a little late in the season, but I want to see a couple things, at least three things. I want to see the Raiders average at least 4 20-plus yard, throws or gains, deep gains a game. And I want to see, excluding Maxx Crosby, at least 4 sacks a game. And I'd like to see him coming out of that middle or anything else, but hopefully at least 4, averaging 4 a game. And last but not least, I want to see at least one game of 4 touchdowns from Aiden O'Connell. I know that's asking a lot from all that things, but again, the sky's the limit, or at least I'd like to see a 2-touchdown fourth quarter from Aiden O'Connell. I want to see a strong finish. So I'd like to get your thoughts and get your feedback on that. This is Raider X out. Go Raiders.
Thank you so much, my man, for the call. Appreciate you. 4 explosives, right? 20-plus yard gainers, 4 sacks a game, at least one game with 4 touchdowns with Aiden O'Connell. Man, 4s are wild. 4s are wild with you, right? You're good with that. And look, I think it's okay to aim for the sky. I really do. It might be a little bit much. Like 4 sacks a game is a lot, especially a couple from the interior, and who knows what the status of Maxx Crosby is going to be. But there's nothing wrong with aiming for the sky. It ain't nothing wrong with having high, lofty expectations, because if you fall a little bit short, then you're still falling just a little bit short. So I'm good with that, right? I mean, I don't mind putting an unreasonable number out there, 4 touchdowns, 4 sacks, 4 explosive plays. I don't mind putting that out there, because if that's something that they're aiming for, then again, like I said, they might fall a little bit short, and that'll be okay. So I'm good with that. And most importantly, I just think that the Raiders need to continue to improve, continue to fight. Under AP, I think that if they get close to those numbers that you threw out there, they'll be showing that they are out there fighting and playing for him and want to be coached by him. I think that that'll go a long way as long as you see that fight and that want to from the players in that locker room. Thanks again for that call. Appreciate you. Up next, got a text from Air Raid Vic out the 757. It says, Q, I'm excited to say I'm going to my first Raider home game against the Vikings. I've been a Raider fan for 35 years, but grew up moving a lot with a Marine father. And after 24 years in the Air Force, I've been to a handful of road games, but I'm on a work trip to Vegas and will be heading to watch the Irish Canyons coming out party at Allegiant with my uncle this weekend. I look forward to celebrating with Raider Nation. Just win, baby. That's Air Raid Vic from the 757. And first of all, man, thank you so much for your service. We appreciate that. Can never tell you that enough. That what you do is you help us and people like me be able to do what I do on the daily, which is a show like this, right? Even if my man out of H-Town, Big Drew, thought it sucked on Tuesday. No, just kidding. But no, thank you, Pops, for all that you have done. Hopefully you enjoy the game. If you get there to the game early, man, come to the Coors Light Landing. Would love to meet and greet and say hello with you and chop it up, talk a little Raider football. You've been a fan for 35 years. I'd love to, pick your brain a little bit, man. So definitely make your way there. If you get there a little bit early, I'll definitely be there hanging out. Also, if you have an opportunity on Saturday night, if you're in town, I know Vinny Bonsignore will have the Rockstar, and they'll have a bunch of Raider Nation there, free to get in. It's no age like restrictions. You don't have to be 21 and over to get in. It's just a good time for Raider Nation. So go by the Rockstar and check out Vinny as well. I'll be in and around town, so I may be able to stop by, but I'm not 100% sure what I have going on. So there you go. But I will see you on Sunday as long as you head over to Coors Light Landing at Allegiant Stadium. We'll close out with a call from Ron in Stockton. He's calling to give his thoughts on what he thinks the Raiders should do with the head coaching position, the quarterback, the draft, and then he also speaks on playing bones, a.k.a. dominoes, and how much it takes to get in. Here he is, Ron in Stockton.
What's up, Q? It's Ron from Stockton. I was listening to the pod today. Man, got me thinking about our future. I think we should just stay pat. I think you might have said that. Starting with the head coach. I mean, we're already paying a lot to 2 other coaches. Try to get some guy who's actually motivating the team. I like that. With the GM. All I hear is good things. Let's see what he can do. Why go get somebody else? That's ridiculous. Again, keep it on the cheap. And I think AOC, I think the quarterback, why go with somebody you don't know if we can figure it out the rest of this year and build from there? We have a lot of salary cap that's going to hit us that we probably can't afford, some of these guys. And so I think draft-wise, O-line, D-line, defensive back, but, mostly O-line. Let's help this guy out. That's what our free agents rebuild this line. I think anybody could go. Going back on your dominoes, when you're playing bones, I think 15's too high to get in. I agree with the 10 to get in. 15's too high. Anyway, go Raiders.
Ron, thanks for the call, my man. I appreciate you. And I think exactly what you just rolled out is exactly what the Raiders could do. I think that there's a real chance that they roll it out and do exactly what you just said. They stick with AP. I believe he has a chance to hold on to that job. And O'Connell, I said it earlier this segment, might really get a chance next season to be the guy. He very well could go into training camp, be QB1, get all the first-team reps, have a little bit of season under his belt already, right? And whoever the offensive coordinator is, whatever that offensive game plan is, he be the guy that is, solely in charge and the guy responsible for making things happen. I can definitely see that happening. I would not be shocked at all. So we'll see. And like I said, I'm pulling for Antonio Pierce because I think he's really got something, and I think that the Raiders could benefit from it. And not only that, he can grow with this team for years to come. He'd be that homegrown guy. I think that would be really awesome, if he was able to get that job. And then also shout out to Mama Q because Coach Pierce confirmed the other day 10 to get in. Right, we talked to him on Wednesday. 10 to get in. I don't know if it made it. I don't think it did on the actual broadcast, but I asked him that as he was getting ready to walk out of the media room. I didn't want to take up anyone's time asking a question that didn't have anything to do with, football, just asking kind of a silly question. But yeah, he said 10 to get in. My man Peg Leg Raider said 10 to get in. A couple people saying 15 to get in. I ain't doing all that. 10 to get in. The only person who says no is Mama Q. Now, she, to her credit, always beats me anyway, so it doesn't matter if it's 10 to get in, 15 to get in, 5 to get in. She always finds a way to beat me because she's got the OG skills, and I'm not mad at her for that. But yeah, it's 10 to get in. So, Ron, thanks so much for confirming that for us. We definitely appreciate you. And that's a great way to close out the show. Definitely appreciate all the feedback. It's been a fun week. Hopefully the Raiders make it a more fun week on Sunday with the victory over the Minnesota Vikings. I'll get some locker room sound. Whether they win or lose, it doesn't matter. I'll be able to get in that locker room and talk to some of the players following the game. So we'll have that coming up on Monday's show. We'll talk about the results of the game, how the Raiders got there, win or lose. And, of course, we'll have plenty of news and notes and conversation as well here on the Locked On Raiders podcast. So until then, Raider Nation, have a fantastic weekend. Enjoy yourself. Relax if you can, and then get ready for Raider football on Sunday. Until then, take care of yourself, take care of your family, love on your family. Most importantly, as always, just win, baby.